Welcome to the third panel in our Cyber Trends 2025 series. I'm Lisa Easterly, President and CEO of Cyber Center of Excellence, or CCOE, a San Diego-based nonprofit that mobilizes businesses, academia, and government to grow our regional cyber economy and create a more secure digital community for all. Cybersecurity is definitely everyone's business now, with the FBI reporting a 33% increase in cybercrime complaints across all industries last year, totaling 16 billion in losses. And the global cost of a data breach has climbed over $4 million, according to IBM. More than half of these costly attacks are aimed at small and medium-sized businesses, which are our region's economic engine. So now pair that with the global shortage of cyber professionals to thwart these attacks to the tune of about 514,000 openings in the US, 5,500 here in San Diego, and it really becomes mission critical to address this universal risk. The good news is here in San Diego, we're leading the charge with more than 1,000 cyber firms and the Navy's Information Warfare Systems Command. This cluster accounts for more than 26,000 jobs and has a total economic impact of about 4 billion annually, which is equal to hosting 24 Comic-Cons for all you fellow Marvel fans. This collaborative ecosystem is developing new technologies, defenses, and cyber warriors to combat this ever-evolving threat landscape. So let's tap into this robust expertise with our esteemed panel today to talk about cyber trends that are shaping 2025. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome our panel. Welcome, Tony, Charlie, and Chris. Tony, why don't we start with you for an introduction?
Hey, well, thank you, Lisa, and that's a great introduction. And those figures from IBM about data breaches are kind of scary. But I'm Tony Anscombe, Chief Security Evangelist at ESET. We're a cybersecurity company. We've been in business now 30 to 35 years, making endpoint security solutions. Today, that's a little bit more sophisticated with managed detection and response. Like I say, I've been in the industry actually nearly as long as ESET, but not at ESET for all 35 years. I'm an ex-COBOL and Fortran programmer, which I'm sure Charles and Christopher may remember. But Lisa, I doubt whether you remember the days of Fortran and COBOL. So I've been a long-standing person in the cybersecurity industry, go around a lot of conferences talking about the current threat landscape and very plugged into actually risk management.
You have one of my favorite titles ever, Chief Security Evangelist. It's just fantastic. So,
Well, I did ask to be the chief evangelist officer, but the CEO had a problem with that.
Oh, well, Charlie, we'll turn it over to you next.
Hi, I'm Charlie Kim. I am the program manager for what's called the Public-Private Partnership and Exercise Program at the San Diego Law Enforcement Coordination Center. We are the DHS recognized regional fusion center for San Diego and Imperial counties and operate as the regional intelligence hub for counterterrorism and criminal intelligence in our region, which includes both physical and cyber threats. My specific task is information sharing, training, and exercise support for public agencies and private entities, which would include houses of worship, hospitals, businesses, commercial facilities, pretty much anything you can think of outside of first responders, meaning police and fire. So I have pretty much everything else, including the military. So our job is basically to support you. Everything we do for you is free. We come out and do training for free. We come out and do exercise support for free, and we share information freely with you free. We just ask that you pass us suspicious activity reports on anything that could be relating to terrorism or mass casualty event. So that's my background. In this field, I have extensive training in a whole bunch of WMD stuff. I'm a JAG officer in the State Guard, and I spent 38 years as a civil trial lawyer prior to entering this field. So a lot of that was as a divorce lawyer, which prepared me to do counterterrorism work.
See, you never know which skills are going to be transferable. So, Chris, we'll have you wrap up our introductions.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So I'm Chris Simpson. I'm the director of the National University Center for Cybersecurity and the program lead for our Masters in Cybersecurity. National University is a veteran-founded university. We've been around over 50 years now. We offer a variety of degrees, including a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in cybersecurity. In my role, one of our big goals is to help grow the cybersecurity workforce throughout the nation. And also, one of the best parts of my role is being able to participate with the CCOE as part of the San Diego Cyber Clinic, which I'm sure we'll talk about this morning.
Fantastic. Well, awesome. Well, we can't talk cybersecurity without talking threats. So, love to hear from you, gentlemen, about what cybersecurity threats are keeping you up at night currently. So, Tony, why don't we throw it back to you for some initial thoughts?
Well, that's a tough one. But it's because there's so many different cyber threats. But I think one of the things that keeps me up is actually looking at the sophistication of cyber threats. They are big, even at the lower end of cyber crime. The tools now becoming available to cyber criminals, the barrier to entry to become a cyber criminal, but also the tools now becoming available to them that they can actually launch some fairly sophisticated attacks against both consumers and businesses. So I think that keeps me up. But the thing that really, the thing that's going to wake me up at night and shake me at 2 o'clock in the morning and then keep me awake for the rest of the night is 0 days and the issue of vulnerabilities. This is something that continues to grow. We find a lot of companies are not timely in patching. We know that from telemetry as well. As we see attacks unfold and exploits unfold. And that's a whole marketplace. The fact that people are trading 0 days and they're trading them legitimately, not on the dark web. They're trading them through legal companies. And I just think that that's something that needs to stop, and that's definitely something that keeps me awake at night. So if you are listening to this webinar, patch, patch, patch. When you hear of some vulnerability, I can't, everybody in cybersecurity says the same thing. Please heed that warning and make sure you patch on a timely basis.
And Tony, can you explain what 0 days are from perhaps our audience members that aren't as cyber savvy?
Yeah, so imagine we're sitting at a machine, we've got a piece of software on the machine, and we're a researcher or a keen enthusiast of some type, and we find a vulnerability in that software. Now you've got several things you could do with it. You could go report it to the vendor, and that becomes a known vulnerability, or you could work out how to exploit it. And if you do that without telling anyone, there you have this 0 day because you're exploiting something that nobody actually knows is a vulnerability. And that's what causes the 0 day. And I said people trade them. So if you find one, and it was for example, a zero-click RC, so remote control, something you can remotely control and execute code on an Android platform, that will net you $2 million.
Wow. Well, Chris, please tell us something good. Then you can also tell us what keeps you up at night, because I'm ready to put my tinfoil hat on now.
Yeah, so I think Tony's spot on about worrying about the growth and sophistication. One of the things that I really worry about now is deep fakes, the AI generated social engineering attacks. So if you think about it, 30 years ago, scammers could just send somebody an email, "Hey, I'm a prince. I need, I'll give you $1 million if you send me, whatever," and people would fall for it. And that didn't take too long to kind of people became aware of that. But now you look at these sophisticated deep fakes where if somebody has 3 minutes of somebody's voice, they can use AI to imitate that voice. The video, the video deep fakes. I think that's going to be a big challenge to really to really combat, and really in some ways we're really all going to really need our tinfoil hats to be paranoid. Is that you? Is that you, Lisa? Is that really you? Maybe have secret code words we share or something like that. Not on email though, but we handwritten notes to passwords or something like that. So that growing sophistication of deep fakes is really what concerns me.
And Charlie, over to you, kind of sitting in that fusion of law enforcement, what kind of threats are you seeing?
So the big concerns that I have are nation states conducting cyber attacks that disrupt our critical infrastructure, especially energy, water, wastewater, communications, transportation, which most people don't realize includes our fuel pipelines, food and agriculture, financial healthcare. That would cause massive political, social, and economic chaos in the country. And people really don't recognize how interconnected, interdependent all of our critical infrastructure systems are. Because if you lose energy, you lose communications, transportation, banking, food, water, healthcare, all of that goes down literally the drain. And one of the concerns we have, obviously, is that could happen as an element of hybrid warfare by a nation state related to what's going on in Europe and the Pacific. And of course, there's the possibility that if we have a natural or technological disaster that already degrades our capabilities, that these nation states would jump on that bandwagon to mask the existence of and the scope of any major cyber attack. So that's what keeps me up at night.
Okay, I'm going to have nightmares for a week. I think one of the things that continues to keep me up at night, and now 11 years in at CCOE, is that we still have such a tremendous amount of lack of awareness and preparation. Because as my cyber sister, our former CISA director, Jen Easterly, always said, about 98% of breaches are caused by human error or by a human action, which on the bright side also means that 98% of these cyber breaches are also preventable. And so as we kind of transition now into some of the new cybersecurity innovations and solutions that you're most excited about, I'd love to give our audience some, potential action items as well that they might be able to institute in their own day to day. So, Tony, we'll take it back to you for some cybersecurity innovations and solutions that you see coming down the pipe to help thwart some of the threats we've talked about.
Sure. Well, I feel like I should say AI because if we're talking about security innovations, I kind of need to be the first person on this call to put the AI thing out there. But actually, that's not what I really want to talk about. I think one of the interesting things over, if we go back 5 years, endpoint security, and bear in mind, endpoint is often the perimeter. So it's really important. Endpoint we would have all termed AV. These days it's a lot more sophisticated. And you get advanced AI solutions on the endpoint. And those AI solutions harmonize with the cloud in detecting things. And it's become very clever because those solutions look at everything that runs on your machine, your processes, the traffic in and out, etc., etc. And this is what's called EDR. Now, this is a great enterprise product. And 2, 3 years ago, we'd have been talking only about companies that have got 25,000 people plus will be able to have the right resources and the right budgets to actually deploy something like that. So I think one of the great innovations actually is this is now down at every small business. Virtually anybody can run this type of solution on their endpoint, and they can run it. If they don't have the resources to run it, they can run it in a managed environment where you end up with a team of experts running it for you externally. So it's not directly a cybersecurity innovation, but I think it's about the availability of the innovation, which has made it available to everybody. And I think that's super important. Christopher said just a moment ago about water utilities. I lived in California for a period of time. The water utility where I lived, they had no more than 15 members of staff. If I went in there and talked about advanced technology solutions, I'd probably get shown the door and just told to leave because I was talking some other language. My point here is even somebody like that can be running these advanced solutions. So I think the innovation is there in availability.
Fantastic. And Charlie, we'll pass it to you to talk about some of the innovations you're seeing.
So, from my perspective, I think what's significant for us is the possibility of employing artificial intelligence for defense in depth, as opposed to just defense at the perimeter. Just as in physical security, you want to be able to detect, identify, response, and recover multiple levels. And so once someone gets inside, because frequently they will, and they start moving laterally within your system, you want the ability to be able to stop that at both the outside and the interior and actually at the user level. So that's what I think would be most useful for us in helping people try and defend themselves.
And Chris, over to you.
Yeah, so I agree with both Tony and Charlie that AI is going to be one of the big innovations. I think one of the unique solutions that's really being developed is the student-run cyber clinics. So as part of the San Diego Cyber Clinic, our students go out and they get real-world experience, and these projects are typically done for organizations that would not otherwise have an opportunity or be able to afford some type of cybersecurity services. So, like Tony mentioned, now a lot of the tools can get down to the lower level. They can still be a bit hard to get started with, but the students can go out and do projects for these organizations. So, National University, San Diego State University, Cal State San Marcos, under the leadership of CCOE, our students have been going out and doing projects for various organizations. At our school, we've done small restaurants, a water authority. As a matter of fact, did a risk assessment for a water authority. We've done things as small as like a two-person trucking company that does DoD shipping and things like that to help get their information securely stored. A startup that wanted to do some work for the state of California, helped give them up to a baseline level. So this is really a kind of an innovative solution, right, to help companies that could not otherwise get started in cybersecurity get started at low cost while giving students real world experience to help prepare them for the workforce.
Yes, this has been a project of absolute passion and love, I think, for all that have been involved. CCOE in partnership, as Chris mentioned, with National University, Cal State San Marcos, and SDSU, with support from Google.org and the Consortium of Cybersecurity Clinics, is we're just about to celebrate our first year anniversary. And very similar to a medical clinic or a law clinic, as Chris mentioned, it really provides our regional students with the ability to get hands-on experience, which we hear from all employers all the time. That's the number one thing they're looking for in their hiring decisions. And then really helps those under-resourced organizations. It's free. So we want everyone to make sure if you're in the community and listening and could use some assistance, we have a very wide range of offerings, as Chris mentioned, everything from risk assessments to incident response planning to product development reviews to employee training, CMMC, lots of different ways that we can support. And really excited that in our first year, what is it, Chris? I think it's over 170 students, about 30 clients, and 18
Yep.
faculty have been impacted by the program. So check it out at sdccoe.org, where you can sign up again for these free services. So I think one of the other, kind of exciting things that we see within cybersecurity is that it's ever changing. And so for good or for bad, you wake up every morning and you're going to learn something new. So I'd love to hear from you about what you see on the horizon this year that really all organizations should have on the radar. So Charlie, why don't we head over to you?
I always lead off with something that's really positive and happy. So I'm going to say continued infiltration of our critical infrastructure systems by nation states are relying on social engineering as their primary way of getting in. I don't know if you were old enough to remember the comic strip character Pogo, but he had a saying, we have met the enemy and he is us." People are, as has been pointed out, our weakest link. So we need to develop systems that help us not be our own enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think, Tony?
Well, that's a very good point, and I think social engineering is probably at the top of my list for organisations should be paying attention to. And we just released actually some research about fake capture, where it displays a capture. I mean, we've all seen them. You go to a website, it pops the box, it wants to check you're human. I personally can never get all the traffic lights or the motorbike in the
I
in the
think I might
picture.
be part robot, Tony. I
Yeah.
actually have had this conversation. I can't tell him either. I think I might be a robot.
Yeah, and I'll go from the motorbikes to the bridges to the buses or whatever, and I still can't do it. But cyber criminals have picked up that we trust these things. Because when a website pops a capture, we assume it's kind of they're authenticating us. I mean, I realize it's not authenticating us as individuals, but they're authenticating the person is real at the other end. So therefore, we trust it. And what they've done is they then pop a second screen, and the second screen says, "Hey, just to confirm further, you're human. Can you press these four keys on your keyboard?" And what you've just done is you've copy and pasted malicious code and you've executed it in your browser, and now you're running a PowerShell script and down comes info stealers, ransomware, or whatever the payload might be. And it's that exploitation of, of trust through social engineering, I think, is a big thing. Now, on the other side of that, I was at Black Hat just recently, and Coalition, the cyber insurer, gave a very interesting presentation, and it shocked me. One of the statistics they were talking about in their presentation, 45% of their claims are due to companies not having multi-factor authentication. So while we talk about social engineering is a big problem, people not having the core fundamental basic solutions in their environment is also a problem. So if you're listening to this and you don't have MFA, yeah, I'm warning you, go get it, yeah, please, because somebody will come and abuse it at some stage.
And Chris, your thoughts? I will say MFA though I'd absolutely banging the drum for MFA, but recently had someone in my inner circles have a SIM swap hijack situation,
Uh,
and that's where MFA really is, unfortunately, is not necessarily the ultimate silver bullet. And so I think to Tony's point, that cyber hygiene in general, just always being aware. To Chris's point with the deep fakes, take that extra step to actually call the organization, call the person, check their website. Don't click from an email or a text. Don't make a decision quickly that could potentially have ramifications for your organization or your personal life. Just based on these initial outreaches, because as you guys all said, they're so much more sophisticated. They're no longer misspelled. They have the right logos. They have the right fonts and the right signatures. So, Chris, additional thoughts from you too on what you're seeing on the horizon, things that are coming over the next few years that really organizations across all sectors need to be aware of.
Yeah, sure. So first, a quick plug for the clinic. So MFA is a perfect target that the students can come help an organization implement, right? Give them some guidance how to do it, explain what it is. So, one thing I think organizations think about in the next year, and this can be as small, medium, or large organizations, there are a ton of free cybersecurity resources out there. At the city level here in San Diego, you got the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab. They offer various tools and services. They've got the My eCISO tool that's free that offer AI-based kind of advice. The LECC that Charlie works for offers resources. At the state level, Cal OES, they offer some scanning support, incident response support, and things like that. Once again, all free. And then at the national level, CISA and the FBI, once again, they offer templates, tabletop exercises, free services. So, implementing cybersecurity measures, regardless of your organization size, can be a bit daunting and can seem expensive. But there are free resources out there. So that might be something for any, regardless of your organization size, something to take a look at.
Oh, fabulous resources. So as we kind of talked about, cybersecurity, we've always had a particular pain point, and that pain point has been talent. Because this, as we've talked about, this is an industry that continues to evolve. And as we've seen here in San Diego over the last, even just decade, we went from having, kind of 100 companies to 1,000 companies that are cybersecurity firms. But we've also seen a considerable shift in the workforce, in that now 60% of the workforce, even here locally in cybersecurity, are not working for a cybersecurity product or a service company anymore. Now they're at the hospitals. Now they're at, as Charlie mentioned, in our food and agriculture industries, and tourism, high tech, defense tech, energy. And so there's this constant need to bring new folks in, whether we're talking about at the beginning of their careers or we're talking about folks that are transitioning. And so I know National University has really great programs for adult learners that want to transition, but I'd love to hear from each of you. What career advice do you have for individuals that are excited by what we're talking about and would love to join the fight? So Charlie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I sort of have three things. One, learn about AI because that is obviously a hot topic now. If you want to get ahead of the curve, learn about quantum computing because that is on the horizon and that's going to be critically important. It could be a complete game changer for everything we do. And then the
Charlie,
last,
if you don't mind too, after you say that, we'd love to hear a little bit more if you can define quantum computing for our
I
audience
can't
too.
define quantum computing. because I'm not a quantum computing expert. But the third thing is to remember but you do have experts who can talk about that here. The third thing is to remember that the military offers great opportunities to become a cyber warrior. They can provide a lot of training, and it's not going to cost you as much. Sorry about that, Chris. It's not going to cost you as much as some of the civilian alternatives. So if you wanted to go into that and get the training, do your 4 years, then you can get out and have the necessary skill set to enter the civilian sector.
Great. Thanks, Charlie. And Chris, we'll have you as our resident academic as well. I know lots of different ways now to get into this type of a career.
Yeah, it's interesting, Lisa, as we kind of talked about at our advisory board in June, entry-level jobs are really hard for students to get into because entry-level jobs, they tend to be kind of overscoped, I think. And I think you have AI creeping in on entry-level job roles, doing a lot of the stuff an entry-level person would do. So what I tell students is, employers want to see that you do have a fundamental knowledge and skills of things, that you can work as part of a team, you can communicate. And so I tell students, in many programs like ours, students do a lot of hands-on labs. So codify those, use those as resume bullets. And so you can demonstrate to an employer what you can do. Participate in cyber competitions like the National Cyber League, Collegiate Pen Test Competition, Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. Those are, real world like simulations. Students are gaining real world experiences in those events. And then finally, participate in things like the San Diego Cyber Clinic, right? So once again, I mean, essentially you're acting as an entry level or a mid-level person. You're doing a risk assessment, a vulnerability assessment for an organization. Obviously, you're not giving away customer information, but you just frame it. Hey, I went to a small school. We conducted a vulnerability scan. We identified 10 critical things they needed to do, wrote a policy on how to do this, this, and this, and really frame that for the employer. Because one of the challenges that I see, and I'd be interested to see maybe what Tony thinks about this, is applying for jobs now. In some ways, it's somebody's AI has AI write their resume, then the AI reads the resume, right, and it's a AI resume battle, right, of how to write the best resume to get through. And then I always tell students to go get out and meet people, right? San Diego is like you mentioned, Lisa, a hub for cybersecurity. We've got OWASP, ISACA, ISSA, ISC squared, just a ton of groups. Go out and meet people because many cases, CISOs, CEOs, managers, they're at these events too. So it's a great way to go out and meet people.
Absolutely. And Tony, yeah, we'd love your thoughts as one of our resident employers.
Well, and let's pick up on the AI writing your resume first, shall we? AI is a tool that should complement human intelligence and human expertise. And I think there's too many people that will throw their resume into one of the AI models and it will churn out something that sounds really good, and that's it. They don't go back, they don't read it, they don't then adjust it. It was a tool there to help you put it into great language. It wasn't there to write it for you. So you should then go back and you should revise it, put it back into your words, and take the adjustments it made and the flow and suggestions it made. But it doesn't end with what came out of the model. So that's the first thing, because when as an employer you read something like that, you can tell it's been written by the AI model because it's just too perfect and it's too clean and it's etc. So look, one of the things I'd recommend, and I may disagree with Chris and Charlie here slightly, or they may disagree with me, I think, is, unfortunately, employers do look for certifications. And the fact you've got a degree is one thing, but an industry certification is then something more. So, for example, a CISSP or other industry certification also allows the employer, whoever it is, whether it's a vendor or whether it's an end user, to then turn and say to their cyber insurer or to their board, yeah, we've got 3 CISSPs, they're experienced, qualified people, etc. So while it might not be at the top of the list for somebody that leaves college, I'd kind of push it towards the top of the list. Try and go and get an industry qualification that is recognized, that then allows the employer to have the bragging rights that I've got X number of these people on my staff. But I know it costs money. And one thing I'd say is, maybe colleges should go do a deal with some of the training establishments that do CISSP and churn out students that actually have the industry qualifications alongside their degree as well. But I know that's challenging because it does cost a lot of money.
The good news is, though, here in San Diego, we have a lot of programs that kind of help with the process and the mentorship, and then ultimately some of the stipending for these programs, like the San Diego Workforce Partnership and our great work around cyber hire, as well as programs like Career Work through Able Disabled Advocacy. And again, bringing these opportunities to underserved folks in our community that are interested in getting involved in helping to ultimately protect this community. I think one of the other pieces of the puzzle that we're really seeing take off is more of this gamified training. And so there are a lot of programs, including one of CCOE's founders, Haiku, that I think now is up to 50,000 users, where it's actual video games that train and give you the opportunity to print out resume builders, like how many hours on Nmap and that you're a ninja at this particular skill. So I think for those that are looking for, again, as Chris mentioned, getting their hands on while they're doing different types of educational programs or while they're in their current roles, there's a lot of ways to get involved through, kind of more creative sources from, again, these challenges and different competitions that you can do in a team kind of environment, clinic type work. We're actually seeing clinics now popping up all over the world and with different focuses, from things like civil defense to, specifically around healthcare, or particularly around nonprofits or critical infrastructure, as Charlie alluded to. So lots of ways not to just get involved, but to get involved in the areas where you have passion. I think that's always my biggest suggestion. If you're someone that always wanted to go into medicine, but you couldn't handle the sight of blood, going to cybersecurity at a healthcare institution does help save lives. So really kind of finding where your passions lie and then putting a cyber lens on, there is a welcome mat for you, I think, at all of those industries and all of these institutions. Well, this has been a fabulous conversation, but as we wrap up, I'd love your parting thoughts for our audience to help navigate, as we've talked about, this ever-evolving cyber threat landscape, and again, to tap into so many of these resources that we've touched on. So, Charlie, why don't you kick us off on your final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts are sort of this. Cybersecurity is a team sport. You're not going to be doing this by yourself. You need to be ready, willing, and able to rely on others. You need to have mentors. You need to talk to your peers, including through CCOE. Many of them are going to be seeing the same things you are. Seek out training and expertise. Chris mentioned DHS CISA and the Cal OES Cybersecurity Integration Center. DHS CISA has fabulous resources. InfraGard's also a very good source to tap. And if you're actually encountering problems or you're worried about dealing with problems, ask for help. We offer training and exercise support. And then you can also get training, exercise support, and actually response support from the California Cybersecurity Integration Center, or Cal CSIC, and then DHS Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Those can help you with cyber vulnerability assessments as well as response. So those are my closing thoughts. Just try not to screw up and hazard your vessel.
Those are great recommendations. And the good news is, too, as we have those Cape Crusaders in our own backyard. So the FBI and DHS CISA and, so many of the folks that Charlie's mentioning are not just, more towards the nation's capital. We've got some really great folks locally to help with businesses here in our region. So many thanks, Charlie. That's awesome. Tony, why don't we head to you, sir?
Well, we have a number of things that we do within the community. I mean, but at the federal level, at the national level, we are a JCDC partner, so with CISA. So we do share the public-private threat intelligence sharing, which is extremely important, especially when you get to critical infrastructure and such like. But more locally on the ground, I mean, we work with other organizations, the Sheriff's Office, the Girl Scouts. Interestingly, we offer scholarships to some lucky participants who once a year can apply for a scholarship if they're heading off into a cybersecurity type course. But I think, for me, there's so much resource out there that you could become slightly overwhelmed as a business, especially if you're a small business of 10 or 15 people. but you've got to engage. I think that will be my big thing here is you've got to look at some of the local resources. You know, NIST do a great cybersecurity framework for small businesses that kind of narrows it down and simplifies it. If you're a small business and you're in the San Diego area, you've got to use some of the resources of that type. And don't ignore things. Don't ignore the lack of MFA and don't ignore social engineering and don't think you're not a target because you're a small business, because unfortunately you are. And sometimes you're the target to get to the bigger business or you're in their supply chain or whatever it might be. Cyber criminals will see you as a target. But yeah, use the resources around. Well, you can always contact us at ESET and we're more than happy to have a conversation with people.
Thank you so much, Tony. And Chris, bring us home.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of like to echo what Tony said for small organizations or even medium-sized organizations, just get started, right? There are a ton of free resources out here. And, like he mentioned, this has some great small business guidance. But if you look at that and you say, well, I don't know what this means, call the San Diego Cyber Clinic. Our students will come in, get you all set up, help you get started with with your program. It's not as daunting as it seems. Once you get started, it's like if you're training for a marathon, right? Yeah, you got to get that first 1 mile in, and then 6 months later, 8 months later, you're going to be running that marathon. So just get started and take advantage of all the great resources, especially here in San Diego. I mean, you can't really beat San Diego for an awesome cybersecurity community.
Absolutely. Street tacos and awesome cyber pros. I will say my absolute favorite thing to say is kind of a parting thought is always train, train, train. Again, people are your best defense. And so I think making sure that cybersecurity is part of your corporate culture, that everyone from the person who sits at the front desk to the CEO is well trained in cyber hygiene methods, as Tony has talked about, is well trained in the types of resources they have within their own entity in the event they are the first line of defense when something comes in. And then, of course, the connectivity to these amazing community resources like the SD-LECC, like the San Diego Cyber Clinic, like so many of the programs that we work with, ESET. We really have, as the team has mentioned, a robust ecosystem here ready to help. So, well, many thanks, Tony, Charlie, Chris. This has just been a great, insightful discussion. We invite businesses and job seekers to visit CCOE's website at sdccoe.org for more information, lots of free resources, including access to that San Diego Cyber Clinic we discussed. We thank you for joining us, and please stay tuned for our last panel of the year coming up in November. Thanks so much, everybody.